Oh, the clinical transport team they are also important as well in regards to moving patients from room to room, moving them outside, whenever it's time for discharge. So lots of opportunities outside of the clinical space for people to be a part of. So any questions here? Were any of these roles surprising, especially as you think about the non-clinical?
I'm curious if you have any remote options for like volunteers or anything, especially in today's age.
Yeah, great question. So for volunteers, not right now. So what we did have actually was when the pandemic first hit, we had an outpouring of volunteers who were able to make masks for our staff, ones, in regards to the social mask. Not necessarily the kind of the PPE or the N95, but we did have a lot of volunteers that jumped in, helped in that regards. We worked with Project Cure, where people could donate and drop off those items so that we can distribute those. Other volunteer opportunities, I would say, that also fall within our space, kind of future state, once we kind of move forward, would be, as we think about, we have a vet fellowship program as we look to work to have our veterans move into the civilian world. So we have worked with the state of Arizona and the Department of Defense to have that program. So we're very excited to participate in that. But I would say when we think about volunteer programs, most of those right now would be in the facility once we have those openings return. But outside of that, what we did have was great community support in regards to the mask making. That was huge. We also had volunteers that kind of did screenings whenever the pandemic first hit. We also had volunteers and the community really did a massive outpouring with donating meals for our clinical and non-clinical staff, just showing that support. So it was really great to see how the community pulled together, because, as we were in surge. So that was a huge help and support from the community. Great question. Other questions? So I do have a question for you all. So as you think about the pathways, what have you seen students or yourself have been more interested in, clinical or the non-clinical RAM, or kind of a combo of both? Both, okay.
Both, but non-clinical maybe for the introductory, because the clinical would require more extensive medical education. Yeah. Unless we have a nursing program.
Yeah. Yeah, and other things too to kind of think about, even when you think about the clinical side, sterile processing as well, that sometimes can be a shorter time frame in regards to certifications. So some of these clinical roles may require certifications that may not be kind of as extensive as some of your RN positions, doctors, et cetera. So those are some other things to kind of think about and share as well.
Jackie, you may be planning to address this, but just curious about, say, a student or a young person who comes in out of high school as a certified nursing assistant. Is that student then able to continue on and progress at Banner into another position and have that CNN be kind of a stackable credential? So just wondering about what some of those pathways are from entry-level positions on into other positions, perhaps while students are continuing their education.
Yeah, that's a great question. We are working and continuing to work and develop pathways. So yes, we even have some internal employees who, let's say they have their CNA and they're working towards their RN. So we do have people that are doing that internally as well. But I love the idea in regards to how can we look, and these are some things as my role has expanded, is how can we look at just what you said, maybe someone that's coming out of high school, maybe they went to EVIT or some other locations there, where maybe they got those certifications, and how can we look to market and promote to those opportunities. And then we have a variety of different tuition assistance programs to help people continue their education should they qualify. Great question.
Great,
You know, go ahead.
Just a quick question from Myra. Is your IT and IT security, is that in-house or is that outsourced?
In-house. Yep. So
okay.
Yep. So IT is, our IT department is massive. And, you know, especially in 2020, they have been very, very active. So we have IT, even if you think about from a security perspective, we have cybersecurity branch in regards to our IT department. Then you think about our EHR, our electronic health records aspect. And then you even think about just the day-to-day as we work through Microsoft Teams and some of those different dynamics. So yeah, IT is really big. And then as far as remote options, not necessarily from a volunteer perspective, but as we think about the remote options, our coding, when we think about coding as well, we have billing and coding that also are typically can be some remote opportunities. And then I see someone had a question about software development. So I would say, maybe tell me a little bit more in regards to what software development when you reference that. Is it more like developing apps or widgets or those type of things? Okay, yep. So we have what's called our innovation group. So our innovation group, so you may have seen like the little, if you've been to any of our facilities, oftentimes you may see, absolutely. So yes, our PR marketing team helps with the website. And in regards to that, we have a Find a Doc tool. We have little widget, it's called our, the bot, you know, so you can go into the ED and we have, you know, oftentimes there's app, we have the banner portal for which people can, you know, look up their records. So yes, tons and tons of widgets and little bots, as I call them, that have been developed within our innovation and IT team. It's a great question. Other questions?
I have a question. So you shared a lot about yourself and your path. So were there any specific experiences within your educational career, either K through 12 or post-secondary, that contributed to your career path?
You know, I would say that's a great question. So I think my passion and willingness to help people, I think really drove I think where I'm at right now in regards to the interest that I have. I also was a former, probably from junior high through college, I was always involved in athletics. So I was a college athlete, and that also played a role, I think, in regards to my drive and organizational skills and just that team dynamic. So I would definitely say being involved in team, whether it's in clubs, sports, whatever it may be, where you can really learn to interact with others and a variety of different people. I think that brings a unique skill set, especially as we think about how much technology has played a role, and especially as we think about 2020 and how we've been probably more isolated and more dependent upon technology. How can we keep that interactive and that skill set that you may get from that human connection? How can we keep that going with the generations moving forward? So I'm a Generation X, so I came in kind of where there was no technology, and then we got dial-up, you know, so I was so excited to get the dial-up. And then now it's like everything's so fast, and, you know, I'm trying to figure out all of these different things and QR codes and all of that stuff that my kids can just, you know, whip out in any moment. And they're like, really, Mom? So I think we just really have to kind of stay on top, but keep that human connection. And that component would be the recommendation that I would give to others.
Thank you. It looks like you have another question in our chat as well. Are you willing to hire high school, career, and technical education seniors who are interning in the fields of biomedical, IT, medical assistance, etc.?
That's a great question. And so I'll, again, just being very transparent with you, my role just recently expanded probably about 3 or so months ago. So my scope moved into kind of our banner careers, which that department actually deals with our, talent pipeline. So how can we build a pipeline, just as you referenced, with our high school students and moving them and getting them some of those experiences in roles as such. So we will be looking at developing a strategy around that question. And so we'll definitely be able to get back to you. But I highly encourage students to go onto the website, look at our banner careers, look at our opportunities there, and look at the qualifications to see if there's something that may be of interest to them. Some roles may require additional experience, but we will look at to see, are there some opportunities, and maybe we can look at some academic partnerships that we can establish once we kind of continue to work through our strategy for 2021. But that's a great question. And I do believe we do have a medical assistant program that we're working on bringing to life, because that is an area, as you probably have heard, where there's a shortage nationally, as well as we think about our medical assistant.
Jackie, that sets up a question I was going to ask, just in terms of, what are some of the highest demand jobs, and, maybe too, what are some of the entry level, high demand entry level jobs where students can continue to move kind of up into other roles in the healthcare industry?
Yeah, so I would say medical assistant would be one. Entry level, I would think about EVS. Oh yeah, perfect slide. EVS, culinary. I would also think about transport. Those are other high demand, jobs I think that we have a lot of people that come into. I also think encouraging, when we think about diversity, it's always important sometimes to think about, sometimes we see more female nurses. So how can we encourage men to go into nursing? When we also think about our transporters, oftentimes our transporters may be men. So how can we encourage more women to go to be into transport? So I think that's where we have some great opportunity to diversify in a variety of different areas, where some of the roles that people may historically have thought been more targeted to one gender or another, or one age group or another, how can we start to diversify that as well? So those are some things that I would say, encouraging people to kind of think outside of the box. Finance are always some other great opportunities to think about that people may not associate with healthcare, and HR are other areas to think about too. And biomed is growing as well. I would say the biomed space is growing. And I think that's more, nationally as well.
Great, thank you. I've always heard that healthcare organizations like Banner are like cities. You have everything.
Yes. We are a little mini city. Have you hired people with special needs? And are there opportunities for all needed with accommodations? Yes, we have an amazing team in regards to accommodation. So if accommodations are needed, there's a process that we go through there. One program that's super cool that we're really proud about is called Project Search. So I don't know if you've heard of Project Search before, but it's a national organization where we work with kids with developmental and learning, I call them deferring abilities, in regards to how can we work to get them a variety of different exposure, skill set. It's an extended internship program. So right now we partnered with the Gilbert School District. And so those seniors will come and they'll spend, we've made some adjustments to be safe with COVID, but they would spend their senior year with us. So it's our first year in the Maricopa County for us to do this. We have this program down in Tucson, and we'll be looking to expand it across other states that we operate in. But Project Search, so we have right now 11 interns, so we're super excited, and they'll be working to learn a variety of different skill sets, such as looking at a menu, making a menu, ordering food for patients. They'll be working with our EVS and culinary departments there. So getting them that exposure and helping them understand, just like anyone else, how to clock in, clock out, how to Maybe maybe a kid's autistic and they need to have a particular accommodation. So then not only does it help the kids, but it also helps the team, because we learn from people who have different experiences than us. So we are very, very excited and proud to be able to partner with the Gilbert School District and Banner Gateway for this program. Yes, yep. And so, yep, we'll look at Mesa as well. So, yep, we can definitely look into that for future state. So, yes, because we have some significant or large facilities in Mesa as well. Yes, it's great. It really, truly is a great program. And we typically, so this is our first year. So the question was, how many interns do we hire? So this is our first year of having it in Maricopa County. We've had great success in Tucson. We probably have had, it's been running longer in Tucson. They work with the district down there. And I would say in and don't quote me, but 2017, I think we had about an 85% conversion rate. And I want to say an 18 as well. I don't have the numbers for 19 yet. Then obviously 2020 has definitely been very unique. But we have had a pretty high conversion rate, historically in the past. And that's our goal. If everything works out, we do want to, hire successful interns that go through the program. Perfect. So this question, this slide here just really kind of talks about some of the information. When we think about clinical education, oftentimes we have a variety of different clinical staff that work within the clinical education space in regards to education classes, quality. Informatics is another space. I know we talked about IT. Informatics is another arm that we have in Banner. As we think about data analytics, that's another area sometimes that people may not think about when we think about kind of the clinical and non-clinical side of the house. And what you'll see on the next slide is we, just kind of, again, nursing, just showing one of our facilities here as we think about kind of the nursing space. And then on the next slide, so again, the non-clinical, HR has played a huge role in the operations of a health system. We also have the business operations side, biomed, engineering, hospital administration. We have our chief executive officers within our hospitals, chief medical officers. Other non-clinical areas from a health system perspective is also marketing and PR, strategy and planning. There's so many, similar to what Cynthia said, there's so many, it truly is like a little mini city in regards to all of the different dimensions that you can go into. We also have safety, we have security officers that are also at our hospitals as well, and they are hired through Banner. Any questions? Okay, next slide. Telehealth. So telehealth has exploded, as you probably can imagine, here in 2020. So we do have a very large, rapidly growing telehealth department. What's really cool is that oftentimes as we think about in our facilities, people come in all times of night, day and night. And so to be able to have, when the situation requires, someone to maybe read a report, a radiology report, our imaging reports, those type of things. So great opportunities from a telehealth perspective. And as we all continue to be safe and social distance and those type of things, you probably have noticed, even with yourself personally, being able to utilize such as Zoom or Microsoft Teams or other apps and ways to connect to your providers virtually. I do think that telehealth will continue to be the wave of the future as we work through the technology advances that we have thus far. And the next slide. So, and think about what can, you know, as we think about preparations, you know, what can students do? You know, as I referenced, you know, we think about these different buckets: community engagement, mentorship and sponsorship, education and certifications. You know, in regards to community engagement, get out and volunteer. You know, once things become safe, are there opportunities within the hospital to volunteer? Internship programs and fellowship programs, clinical rotations if they are in the clinical space. In regards to mentorship, maybe they can reach out to someone that's in a role that they aspire to be in and have them as a mentor and or a sponsor. You know, maybe you all can think about some formal programs to start from that perspective, aligning, you know, those within a particular system or department and aligning them with the students. Bringing awareness in regards to the education process, what roles may need education. What roles may need education and what roles may need certifications. Some things that also are important as well is to think about process improvement. I think process improvement has been a huge area across all health systems as we think about that. So when we think about green belt opportunities, other type of process improvement areas, those are different things to think about, you know, for students to move into healthcare. Because sometimes when we think about engineering and those things, people don't necessarily think about healthcare. And the next slide. And now I'll pause for questions. Any additional questions?
I just say I went to the site and you have about a bajillion jobs there, a lot of jobs of
Yes.
every type. I mean, tons of different jobs.
Yes, yeah, they vary. And so that's, you know, I really encourage students to go to those sites, check them out, and really just be open. You know, healthcare is changing. We will continue to evolve, and just knowing that it's great. We do need providers, we do need nurses, but we also need other clinical and non-clinical staff as well.
Just a question or thought, and I know this is challenging often in a healthcare facility, but just wondered if you ever do things like site visits. Say if Steve, who I know is a computer science teacher, you know, wanted to take students into an IT department in Banner, you know, any kind of a site visit or even project-based internships or some of those experiences for students. And as I said, I know that can sometimes be difficult within the healthcare industry, but I just wondered if you have or have considered those kinds of opportunities.
You know, that's a great question. And that's something I definitely can take back for us to kind of think about and noodle over. But that's a great question. You know, I think one, you know, do we have an opportunity? I'm just totally thinking off the top of my head. You know, do we have an opportunity, since we are in this socially distanced world right now, do we have an opportunity to have some type of virtual option? You know, so we have been kind of talking about that as well. So that is something we're looking at. We can kind of look at and explore and come back to you with that, see what some options may be.
That would be great. And any teachers out there who have any ideas or suggestions or thoughts, please feel free to jump in or share them in chat, because that's one of the benefits of these types of this experience too. You know, we can talk about that. Even this virtual teacher externship, we, you know, 2 summers ago had done these in person. So the fact that we're all here is a great example of some of the ways we can think to be a little innovative. So don't be shy. Share any questions or thoughts you have with Jackie. Now's your chance.
Yeah, and I'm making notes here.
I think doing anything virtual like that is fabulous. I put the question in the chat about special education students. I teach the Onward and Upward program at South Mountain. Everybody's heard this spiel like every day and so far, but I'm always trying to make connections for the class because it's a transition program. So they're 12 plus, and I'm helping them learn skills in home, community, and the workforce. And that's kind of how we've been connecting to a lot of employers and doing practice interviews. Today, we actually did like a virtual job fair with Dreams Jobs. So that was really great. So any opportunity, obviously, I think it's much better to be in person, but to be safe during these times, I think that's great. Sometimes even just doing a little interview with different workers kind of at different levels. You know, today one of my students was really interested in custodial work. And one of the companies was talking about like, you know, how we can have you cleaning like the high risk areas like doorknobs and things like that. So really, I think anything virtual and touching on all the different types of jobs is really great. And even if it's not something that maybe my student's going to be applying for, just hearing about it and hearing the different opportunities, I think really gets them excited to be within the workforce.
Yeah, and I like that idea, and I made a note because we do have, I'm thinking about one person who may be a great guest speaker. She works in our food services, and she may be a great guest speaker one day. So I'll make sure I'll put my email here in the chat box so that everyone has it. But yes, guest speakers, we definitely would be open to having some employees come in to be, you know, virtual guest speakers. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, and my students actually just got their food handlers card last month, so they can work like in an industrial kitchen. And when we're back on campus, we actually run like a cafe for the teachers, a pretty simple one. But yeah, just seeing opportunities, and you know, just because you have a food handler's card doesn't mean it would just be at a restaurant. Like there's places that have restaurants or cafes or things within them. So I think that's great. I'll definitely take your information. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. And you said it was I'm making a note, onward and upward?
Upward and onward. Yeah, and we're at the academies at South Mountain.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
No, you're welcome. Perfect. Other questions and ideas? Love that. Okay, coding, perfect. Great.
I'll throw another one out there. Jackie, are there any roles in the healthcare industry that you think are dying roles that you would say students should maybe not think about these types of roles?
No, I don't think so. I think we've done a really, really great job with being innovative and creative and, you know, having that forward thinking as a health system. So I wouldn't say so, no. Everything, I think there are roles that we're trying to figure out what will we need, you know, in the next 10 years because everything's so changing. And I think 2020 has definitely shined a light in regards to how we will be working differently. Not only in healthcare, but I just think across the world, you know, how do we work differently in this virtual and remote setting? So no, I don't think so. I can't think of any roles that are kind of dying off.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Jackie, you listed a variety of different roles, and we can see that we posted on here that there's over 1,000 roles on the website. What advice would you give someone researching careers or looking at these job roles? Are there certain things they should be looking for? And also, what about across different types of employers? What are things that they should be maybe digging a little bit deeper in and finding as they're looking at these different types of career paths?
Yeah, so, you know, I think definitely looking at the qualifications, you know, really understanding the qualifications, maybe doing some research in regards to what the role may actually entail. I think those are some great points for students to dig deep into. And maybe if they know anyone in that role in space, sometimes that can be helpful to get an understanding of the role.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, great. Yeah, marketing. Yeah, we have some cool, be cool to have some folks chat about marketing because that marketing's so, It's massive. There's so many facets of marketing. You have the branding side, you have the PR side, and yeah, just tons and tons of areas within marketing. And then we also have our Banner Foundation, which that's our philanthropy side of the house as well. So those are some other things to think about that people may not think are within a health system. So we help, we have a variety of different programs within Banner, such as we have a bereavement camp with our hospice for kids, that may have lost people to cancer, music therapy programs. So many different things. Like you said, I mean, it truly is a little mini city.
This is kind of a little bit off topic, but has Banner started hiring child life specialists?
We do.
Because that's like new and up and coming field. And I think that
Yes.
is so fabulous.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Yes.
Jackie, I'll jump in with one more thing. You shared a little bit about telehealth, and while the teachers in this particular cohort are pretty much from Phoenix and Mesa, we have teachers throughout this experience, some of whom will watch this as a recording later, who do teach in some of our more rural areas in Arizona. And I know often, especially some of our more remote areas are really interested in opportunities, job opportunities that are remote opportunities or careers that could be moving to remote potentially. And I know, as you've mentioned, we've kind of seen that in, this particular environment where we've recognized there perhaps are a lot more jobs that could be done remotely, and there's a little more uptake for that. So, do you see an opportunity with Banner for remote workers or some roles that would be great for, say, a student who, lives in a rural area in Arizona and really wants to stay there?
Yeah, I think that space is definitely evolving. I think, as you look at some of the roles that are listed there, some will say remote. So I think that'll be another opportunity for people to look. And we actually do have facilities, et cetera, in the rural area. So I think that's, we have facilities in Page and other areas, kind of down in the Tucson market as well. So I think that I would recommend, looking at the website to see what opportunities may be remote, and knowing that that will be ongoing. Right now, most of our corporate roles are remote until 2021. And then we'll be able to reassess that as well. But again, some of our roles are in the facilities, but most of our corporate roles are remote right now to keep everyone safe.
Great, thank you. I'm anticipating questions that could be out there from some of our other teachers.
Yes, absolutely. Great. Well, I definitely appreciate, the time and, energy. This has been exciting. I took some notes here, but definitely feel free to reach out, if you have any questions or if anything else comes up. Let's see how we can continue to grow this partnership.
Great. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you. Everyone have a great day.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
You too.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We will also be collecting collateral contact information that we will be sharing as well. And Kimberly will be heading that on to pass on additional information. But thank you all for joining us today. And thank you, Jackie, for this great information.
Thank you.
Thanks, and I'll see you all tomorrow, teachers.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks so much. Nice to see you all again. Anthony, you have a different background. I love the background you had one of the last 2 days. It was super cool.
Oh yeah, the Milwaukee Art Museum there.
You know what? I wondered, okay, so can you see the picture behind me?
Yeah.